The starship appeared in the night sky like a silver arrow cutting through darkness. Villagers in the remote valley of Earth looked up in silence. None of them had ever seen a ship like this before. It was not made of steel or iron, but of some glowing material that pulsed like a living heart. The ship moved gently, not with the noise of rockets, but with the calm grace of a falling feather. Inside this ship was Princess Serenia, daughter of the royal house of Lumeris, a distant empire among the stars. She had grown up in palaces built of crystal, where light itself was sculpted into walls. She had never walked on real grass, never smelled the raw earth after rain, never felt the warmth of a sun that was not her own. Her world was one of power, but also of isolation. The princess had begged her father, Emperor Venar, to let her visit Earth. She wanted to see these humans, creatures her people had spoken of with mixed voices. Some called them dangerous, others called them weak, yet a few whispered that humans carried something even the greatest empires feared: unbreakable spirit. Serenia's ship landed quietly in the valley. The doors opened and she stepped out, her long silver cloak dragging lightly across the soil. Her skin shimmered with a faint glow, and her eyes reflected the stars like mirrors. For the first time in her life, she felt small. The sky above her stretched wider than any hall of her palace. From the shadows of the village, people gathered. They were afraid, but their curiosity was stronger than their fear. Children peeked from behind their parents. Farmers held their tools tightly. Yet no one ran away. A young man named Daniel stepped forward. He was not a soldier, nor a leader, but something inside him told him he had to move. His brown hair was messy, his hands rough from work, but his eyes were steady. "Who are you?" he asked, his voice calm but firm. Serenia looked at him, studying the way he stood between her and the others. He was unarmed, yet ready to protect his people. Something inside her stirred. "I am Serenia," she said softly, her voice like a song. "Daughter of the Lumerian Empire. I came not to harm, but to learn. I came to understand humans." The crowd murmured. Some feared it was a trick. Others felt hope, though they could not explain why. Daniel frowned. "Why would a princess from the stars want to understand us? We are only farmers, workers, ordinary people." Serenia smiled, faintly. "Because ordinary people often hold the greatest truths." The villagers were unsure, but Daniel nodded. "Then stay. But you must know, here we do not bow to titles. You will be treated as one of us." This surprised Serenia. Her world, no one would dare speak to her without kneeling. Yet here was this human speaking as if they were equals. For the first time, she felt something she had never known before: humility. That night, Serenia stayed in the village. She sat near the fire while the villagers shared food. The flames reflected on her silver cloak, and she listened as they told simple stories, tales of harvest, of storms, of children born, of lives lost. They were not stories of empires or wars, but of love, struggle, and hope. She realized something striking. In her empire, people spoke of power and conquest, but here, humans spoke of bonds between families, between friends, between communities. It was this bond that kept them alive. Daniel noticed her quietness and asked, "Do you not have stories where you come from?" Serenia lowered her eyes. "Our stories are of kings and victories. We speak of battles won and planets conquered. But your stories, they are of the heart." Daniel smiled. "That is what makes us human. We fight, yes, but more than that, we live for each other." Her chest tightened. She felt as if she was hearing something forbidden yet precious. Later, when the villagers slept, Serenia walked outside. The stars above Earth looked different than from her palace. They seemed closer, brighter, as if they were trying to speak. She thought of her people always reaching for more power, never stopping to simply look. Suddenly, she heard footsteps. It was Daniel. He walked up beside her, carrying nothing but a lantern. "You cannot sleep?" he asked. Serenia shook her head. On my world, the nights are not this quiet. Here the silence feels alive. Daniel chuckled. You will get used to it. Or maybe you will never want to leave it. She looked at him closely. His face was lit by the lantern's glow. He was not noble, not trained in diplomacy, yet he carried himself with a strength no emperor could command. Why did you step forward? Earlier? She asked. When I first arrived. You did not know if I was friend or foe. Why risk yourself? Daniel shrugged. Because someone had to. And if I did not, who would? These words echoed in her mind. On her planet, people waited for orders. Here, a simple man acted without command. Was this what made humans different? For the first time in her journey, Serenia began to feel the meaning of intimacy, not in the way her empire might define it, but in the closeness of spirit, in the unspoken trust that could grow between two souls. She whispered to herself, perhaps this is what I came to learn. And above them, the stars continued to burn, as if watching a story only just beginning. The alien princess, Ilara, walked carefully along the cobblestone streets of the small human town. Everything seemed alive with sounds and colors she had never seen before. Birds chirped in rhythms she could almost understand, and children laughed, as they chased one another with sticks pretending they were swords. The air smelled different here, softly sweet and earthy, and for the first time she felt a kind of nervous excitement. Ilara's eyes, violet and wide, sparkled as she observed. A small bakery. The window showed humans moving behind the counters, their hands working quickly but with precision. She noticed the joy in their faces as they offered bread and pastries to waiting customers. She didn't yet understand all of their ways, but she felt something she had read about in human books. Warmth. A human girl, no older than 12, spotted Ilara standing outside and waved. Hello. Are you new here? She asked. Her voice was bright, friendly, and full of curiosity. Ilara tilted her head, trying to mimic the human gesture of a greeting. Yes, she said carefully, pronouncing the words slowly. I am learning. The girl giggled, running closer. I'm Mia. You can come in if you want. My mom makes the best bread ever. For a moment, Ilara hesitated. In her world, approaching strangers was unusual, but something about the girl's genuine smile felt safe. She nodded, and the two of them entered the bakery together. Inside, the air smelled of fresh bread and something sweet. Sugar or honey, Ilara wasn't sure. She observed how humans worked together. Mia's mother handed pastries to customers with careful movements, while Mia carefully counted coins and made small talk. Ilara noticed the way they moved, the way their faces shifted with expression. Every gesture seemed meaningful, even when she couldn't understand the words. Would you like to try? Mia asked, handing Ilara a small loaf of bread. Ilara held it carefully, noticing its warmth. She had tasted food before, but this was different. The flavor was simple yet comforting. She realized that humans put care into everything they did. Even something as ordinary as bread carried love and attention. Thank you, Ilara said, bowing slightly, a gesture she thought might be polite. Mia laughed again, not at her, but at the unusual way she moved. You're funny, but in a nice way, Mia said. Come on, I'll show you more. As they walked through the town, Ilara observed more human behavior. Some people worked together in fields, lifting heavy tools while speaking in quick bursts of language she partially understood. Others simply sat together, eating or talking, their expressions telling more than words ever could. She realized humans valued cooperation, laughter, and shared experiences more than she had imagined. Yet not everything was easy. A group of older children tried to play a game she didn't understand. They moved quickly, shouted rules she couldn't follow, and Ilara's attempts to join only caused confusion. One boy accidentally bumped into her and she stumbled backward. Hey, watch it, the boy shouted, though not angrily, more in surprise. Ilara froze, unsure what to do. In her culture, accidents like this were rare, and mistakes often caused offense. But she remembered the smile she had seen today, the laughter. She tried a small, awkward smile and said, "I learn." The boy blinked, then shrugged. "Okay, sure. Just don't push too hard next time." Ilara nodded. This was her first lesson in human patience and forgiveness. People could make mistakes, and yet kindness still existed. Later, she observed humans in another part of the town. A group gathered around a small stage, where one man told stories using gestures and voices. Children and adults alike laughed at his jokes, gasped at his surprises, and applauded when he finished. Ilara realized that storytelling was more than just words. It was connection, imagination, and emotion expressed in ways that could be understood by anyone willing to watch. She wanted to try too. Slowly, she stepped onto the edge of the stage and mimicked the gestures she had seen. At first, humans looked confused. But soon, a few children clapped, then more joined. Her gestures were strange, but somehow her effort and joy made people smile. She felt a thrill, an energy that she had only read about in human history books. Connection, she realized, came from shared experiences, not just shared language. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of pink and orange, Ilara sat with Mia on a small bench near the town square. People moved around them, finishing their day's work, laughing, talking, and enjoying simple moments together. Humans are complicated, Ilara said softly, mostly to herself. But they are kind. Mia nodded, offering her a small piece of candy. They can be, and sometimes confusing too, but if you pay attention, you can learn a lot from them. Ilara smiled, holding the candy carefully. This was her first real taste of human culture, and it felt like a small treasure. She realized that understanding humans would take time, patience, and observation. But she wanted to learn. It was exciting, challenging, and full of possibility. That night, Ilara returned to the guest quarters provided by the town council. She sat by the window, looking out at the human settlement below. The lights twinkled like stars reflected on the ground, each one a story, a connection, a moment of life she was only beginning to understand. She thought about the games, the bread, the laughter, and the small gestures of kindness she had witnessed. Her heart, something she had never considered deeply in her world, felt light. She understood now that humans were more than just physical beings. They carried emotions, traditions, and bonds that were invisible yet powerful. Her communicator buzzed softly. A message from her home planet appeared asking about her progress. She hesitated, fingers hovering over the screen. How could she explain this? Not the words, but the feeling. The warmth, the connections, the lessons of patience, forgiveness, and joy. She typed carefully. Learning. More than expected. Humans are fascinating. As she sent the message, she knew her journey had only begun. Tomorrow, she would explore more, meet more humans, and perhaps discover deeper lessons about life, connection, and the spirit of humanity. And somewhere in the quiet night, a feeling of anticipation settled in her chest. The world of humans was bigger, stranger, and more wonderful than she could have imagined, and she was ready to dive in, one step at a time. The next morning, Ilara awoke with the sun spilling golden light across the walls of the guest quarters. She felt a strange excitement in her chest, a mixture of curiosity and determination. Today, she thought, she would see more of human life, beyond the streets and bakeries. Humans had many layers. She had seen only the simplest ones. Now she wanted to understand their work, their learning, their gatherings, and perhaps the ways they helped each other when trouble came. After a quick breakfast with Mia, who had become her guide and friend, Ilara set out toward a place that intrigued her, a human school. The building was smaller than she expected, with laughter and chatter spilling out of open windows. Children ran between classrooms, carrying books and supplies. The air smelled of chalk and fresh paper, and the sound of voices created a rhythm she found oddly comforting. "Are you sure they'll let me in?" Ilara asked, her voice soft, tinged with hesitation. Mia grinned. Of course. My teacher likes visitors. You just have to behave and follow the rules. Ilara nodded. Rules were easy to follow when she understood them. She stepped through the doors and immediately the children stared. Her appearance was unusual. Violet eyes, slightly taller frame, hair that shimmered faintly, but she felt no fear. Instead, curiosity filled the room. Good morning, she said carefully, bowing slightly as she had practiced. Wow, who is that? Whispered a boy in the back. She's new, Mia explained. Her name is Ilara. The teacher, a kind-faced woman with gentle eyes, stepped forward. Ilara, welcome. Today we're learning about teamwork and problem-solving. Would you like to join us? Ilara nodded, taking a seat among the children. She watched as they split into groups for a small challenge, building a structure using blocks and string. The goal was simple: create the tallest tower that could support a small weight. At first, Ilara observed quietly. Humans worked differently than she expected. They spoke constantly, shared ideas loudly, and sometimes disagreed. She saw frustration appear in some faces, but she also saw how they calmed each other, encouraged each other, and sometimes even laughed at their mistakes. When it was her turn, Ilara hesitated. She had advanced problem-solving skills from her own world, but humans often valued the process as much as the result. She suggested a plan that was elegant but complex. Too complicated, one boy said, frowning. Ilara frowned in return, trying to understand. It will work, I promise. The children exchanged doubtful looks. Mia gave her a small smile. Sometimes humans need to try, fail, and then learn. Let them experiment. Ilara nodded, adjusting her approach. She allowed the children to place blocks as they wished, gently guiding them only when necessary. Slowly, the tower grew taller than any they had expected. When it finally held the weight successfully, cheers erupted. The teacher clapped warmly. Well done, everyone, she said. Ilara, you've done something amazing. You didn't just build the tower. You helped others believe they could succeed too. Ilara's chest swelled with a feeling she had never experienced before. Pride mixed with connection. Humans, she realized, were not just about results. They valued encouragement, trust, and cooperation. After school, Mia led her to the human market, a lively place where people sold fruits, clothes, and all sorts of items. The colors, smells, and sounds were overwhelming. Ilara noticed how humans bargained, laughed, and helped each other carry heavy loads. She tried buying a small basket of apples, using the coins she had received from the town council. At first, she fumbled, unsure of the value, but the vendor smiled and guided her patiently. You learn quickly, the vendor said kindly. Most visitors are slower than you. Ilara bowed. Thank you. I wish to understand. As the day went on, she continued observing humans helping each other in unexpected ways. A young man lifting a heavy crate for an elderly neighbor, children helping each other untangle string from toys, and strangers giving directions to lost travelers. Every act, small or large, carried intention and care, yet not all humans were easy to understand. Later, a small misunderstanding occurred near the town square. A boy had accidentally dropped his bag, scattering its contents across the street. A group of children rushed to help, but one of them accused another of taking something. Voices rose, and soon it seemed the argument might escalate. Ilara stepped forward cautiously. She had learned the human way of resolving conflicts. Calm, listening, and guiding. Wait, she said softly, holding out her hands. We can solve this together. The children looked at her, surprised. Slowly, they stopped arguing. Ilara helped collect the scattered items, returning them carefully. Then, using gestures and simple words, she encouraged the children to apologize and forgive. By the time the parents arrived, the problem was solved. One parent, a man with a kind but serious face, approached her. You have a way with children, he said. Most adults can't handle this. How did you do it? Ilara smiled faintly. I watch, I learn. Humans are worth understanding. As evening fell, Alara and Mia walked to a small hill overlooking the town. Lights twinkled below and the air carried a soft breeze that ruffled their hair. Humans can be complicated, Mia said quietly. They argue, they make mistakes, they sometimes hurt each other without meaning to. Alara nodded. But they try to help, to forgive, to connect. That is what makes them strong. Mia smiled. You're starting to see it, aren't you? Human strength isn't just about power, it's about heart, friendship, and trust. Alara considered this. In her world, power and knowledge were prized above all else. Yet here she had seen that small gestures, patience, and connection could achieve more than sheer skill. She realized that understanding humans meant more than observing. They had to be felt, experienced, and respected. Suddenly, a commotion near the town caught their attention. A small vehicle had broken down, blocking the main road. Humans were gathering, unsure how to move it. Alara's mind raced. In her world, she would have solved this instantly with advanced technology, but here, she needed to adapt. Let's help, she said to Mia, but carefully. We must work with them, not just do it ourselves. Together they approached the group. Alara offered suggestions, showing humans how to use simple tools to lift and move the vehicle safely. At first, some hesitated, unsure of her intentions, but her calm demeanor and willingness to work alongside them won their trust. Soon, humans were moving the vehicle as one team, and it was cleared in moments. Cheers erupted. A man shook her hand firmly. You're incredible. Not just for what you did, but for how you did it. Humans respect effort as much as skill. Alara bowed. I am learning. Every day. That night, as she returned to the guest quarters, her mind buzzed with thoughts. Humans were unpredictable, emotional, and sometimes confusing, but their strength lay in unity, empathy, and persistence. She realized that the lessons she was learning here were not just about observation, they were about living, understanding, and connecting. As she looked at the stars, she felt a growing determination. Tomorrow, she would explore deeper human relationships, perhaps even venture into their communities to understand more about their challenges, hopes, and dreams. Each day brought new lessons, and each interaction made her feel more alive than she had ever felt on her distant planet. Somewhere deep in her heart, Alara knew that she was not just learning about humans, she was learning about herself, and that knowledge was more powerful than any technology, skill, or strategy she had ever known. The morning sun rose gently over the town, casting a warm glow on the streets that Alara had begun to know so well. Birds sang in rhythm with the waking humans, and the scent of fresh bread from the bakery drifted through the air. Today was different, though today she would venture beyond the small squares and markets. She had been invited to observe the Human Council, a gathering where leaders of the town discussed problems, solutions, and plans for the community. Alara felt a strange mixture of excitement and nervousness. In her world, leaders were expected to make perfect decisions with logic and calculation. But humans, she had learned, valued dialogue, debate, and understanding. It would be different. Mia walked beside her, chattering about the council and the people who attended. They can be serious, but they listen if you show respect. Just don't interrupt too much. Alara nodded. I will observe first. The council hall was a simple building with wooden chairs arranged in a circle. People spoke in turns, sharing news of the town, raising questions, and proposing solutions. Alara listened carefully, noting not only the words but also the gestures, the tone of voice, and the subtle glances that conveyed emotion. She began to understand how humans combined reason with empathy, logic with feelings. A crisis was raised by one of the council members. The river that ran along the town's edge had risen unusually high overnight. Heavy rains upstream threatened to flood the lower streets if the town did not act quickly. Panic and concern rippled through the room. Alara's eyes widened. In her world, she could have predicted the flow, calculated the force, and created a solution instantly. But here she needed to work with humans. The mayor, a kind but firm woman, looked around. "We need ideas. What can we do to protect the town?" Hands shot up, voices rose, and suggestions flowed in all directions. Some were practical, some impossible, and some risky. Ilara noticed the uncertainty in the eyes of the council members. She felt an urge to help, but she remembered Mia's advice: work with them, don't replace them. When there was a quiet moment, Ilara spoke softly but clearly. "I have seen the river. It will rise. I can help you understand what to do. But we must work together." The council members exchanged cautious glances. One man leaned forward. "How? You're not from here. How can you know?" Ilara took a deep breath. "I observe. I learn. I will not act alone. We must use your strength, your tools, and my knowledge." Slowly, the council agreed to follow her suggestions. Ilara explained a simple system to build temporary barriers, using sandbags and wooden planks. She divided tasks, pairing humans who were skilled in construction with those who had energy and willingness to help. At first, some humans were hesitant, unsure of her instructions. But as they started, they saw how careful and precise she was. She moved among them, showing how to position planks, balance sandbags, and create a safe passage for water flow. Hours passed, and the rain continued to fall. The river swelled, spilling over its banks in small streams, but the barriers held. Ilara coordinated with humans, offering guidance and encouragement, helping them adjust when things shifted unexpectedly. Children and adults alike worked tirelessly, inspired by her calm presence. Some had never seen someone act with such patience and confidence. Ilara realized that leadership here was not about giving orders, but about trust. Trust in knowledge, trust in people, and trust in the process. By late afternoon, the river had been contained, and the town was safe. Exhausted but relieved, the council members and townspeople gathered in the square, clapping and cheering. The mayor approached Ilara, her eyes shining with gratitude. "You have done more than we could. Imagine," she said, "not just protecting the town, but teaching us how to work together better. You are remarkable." Ilara bowed slightly. "I learned from you. Humans are strong when they cooperate. I only helped." Mia grinned. "See? You're not just learning about humans, you're teaching them too." The praise was warm, but Ilara's mind was already turning. She had learned a lot today, but she also realized how much she did not know. Humans were capable of great strength, but they were also vulnerable. She had to understand them even better to help them truly. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Ilara wandered toward the outskirts of the town. She looked at the flowing river, now calm and contained, reflecting the orange and purple sky. The sight filled her with awe. Humans had worked together, guided by her insight, but it was their effort, courage, and trust that had saved the day. She felt a sense of connection deeper than she had expected. Suddenly, a soft rustling in the nearby woods caught her attention. At first, she thought it was an animal, but the movement was different, too deliberate. Her senses, sharper than humans, alerted her to something unusual. Carefully, she approached, trying to remain silent. A small group of humans, strangers to the town, emerged from the trees. They looked anxious and weary, carrying strange devices and equipment she had never seen before. One stepped forward, speaking quickly to another, and Ilara could tell they were in some kind of trouble. Without fully thinking, she stepped into the clearing. "Hello," she called softly. "Do you need help?" The strangers froze, surprised by her sudden appearance. After a tense moment, one of them nodded. Yes. Our equipment failed. We were mapping the river to predict floods upstream. We don't know how to fix it, and the water is rising." Ilara's mind raced. Here was a new problem, more complex than the one the town faced. But now, she had knowledge, humans, and tools at her disposal. She had learned patience, observation, and coordination. She could use these to solve this challenge. "Show me," she said, moving toward their equipment. Carefully, she examined the devices, using her analytical skills to detect the problem. With guidance from the strangers, she helped repair the instruments, explaining what they needed to do step by step. Humans, both town members and strangers, worked together, following her instructions. Hours passed as darkness fell, but finally the devices worked. They measured the river's behavior, predicting future surges. The strangers thanked her profusely, amazed at her combination of knowledge and humility. "You are extraordinary," one said. "You saved our work and perhaps many lives." Ilara shook her head gently. "I only help. Humans are strong. You learn from each other." When she returned to the town, the villagers were already preparing for the evening. The day had been long, and stories of her guidance had spread quickly. Children ran to her asking questions, and adults nodded respectfully. Ilara realized that her connection with humans had deepened. She had been a guide, a helper, and a friend. But more importantly, she had learned about trust, responsibility, and teamwork in ways no book could teach. That night, as she gazed at the stars from her quarters, she reflected on the day. Humans were remarkable creatures, resilient, cooperative, and endlessly creative. They made mistakes, argued, and sometimes failed, but their willingness to try, forgive, and work together was extraordinary. She felt a deep respect for them, stronger than anything she had felt before. And yet somewhere deep inside, a new question stirred. If humans were capable of such strength and adaptability, what else could they achieve? And how far could she go to help them while continuing to learn from them? The adventure, she realized, was only beginning. The town lay quiet under a soft blanket of early morning mist. Ilara stood at the edge of the river, watching the water flow steadily, thinking about everything she had learned over the past days. Humans were clever, brave, and endlessly adaptable. She had seen them work together to solve problems, overcome challenges, and build connections stronger than any machine or calculation could create. Yet today, a new challenge awaited. A sudden storm had been reported upriver, one stronger than any the town had seen before. The warning came from the devices Ilara had helped repair, and the data showed that without preparation, the river could flood the town within hours. Ilara's violet eyes glimmered with determination. She had faced challenges before, but this time the stakes were higher. Every human she had met, every lesson she had learned about cooperation, patience, and trust would be needed. She knew the town relied on her guidance, but she also knew that true success depended on humans working together, not on her alone. She hurried to the town square where the council and townspeople had already gathered. The mayor, recognizing the urgency, nodded at her. "Ilara, what should we do?" Ilara spoke calmly but with clarity. "We must prepare barriers along the river, but this time, we must plan in sections. Teams will take zones, and each group will communicate constantly. Humans trust each other. That is your strength. I will help guide, but the work is yours." A murmur spread through the crowd. Some faces showed doubt, others determination. Mia ran to her side, holding a bundle of ropes. "We can do this," she said firmly. "Everyone trusts you, Ilara. Let's show them what we can do together." Ilara nodded, dividing the volunteers into teams. Each team received instructions, tools, and guidance on building strong, flexible barriers. At first, progress was slow. The storm clouds gathered and wind rattled the wooden planks and sandbags. Some humans struggled, unsure if their barriers would hold. "Focus on communication," Ilara said, moving between teams. "Help each other. Encourage each other. Work as one." She watched as humans began to adapt. One team realized that stacking sandbags in a zigzag pattern would add strength. Another found a way to anchor planks more securely using ropes and stakes. Ilara moved quietly, offering insight but letting humans discover their own solutions. Hours passed. Rain began to fall, Soft at first, then harder, and finally the river started to rise. Panic crept into some faces, but Ilara's calm presence reminded them to stay steady. She pointed to areas where extra support was needed, guided efforts to reinforce weak spots, and encouraged communication between teams. The storm intensified, sending gusts of wind and rain that made working conditions difficult. A tree branch broke near one of the teams, startling them. But immediately another team came to help, lifting the branch safely out of the way and reinforcing the barrier behind them. Ilara smiled faintly. This was exactly what she had hoped to see. Humans working together, not relying solely on her guidance but trusting each other and themselves. As night fell, the storm reached its peak. Water threatened to breach some sections of the barrier, and a few sandbags shifted dangerously. Ilara moved quickly, guiding volunteers to reinforce the walls while keeping morale high. Children brought ropes, and adults supported each other, physically and emotionally. Every hand, every action contributed to the greater effort. Finally, after what seemed like endless hours, the storm began to subside. Rain slowed, the river leveled, and the barriers held. Exhausted humans collapsed. On the ground, laughing, cheering, and hugging each other, the town was safe. Ilara stood apart for a moment, observing the scene. Humans had done it. They had faced the storm together and succeeded. She felt an unfamiliar warmth in her chest, a feeling she realized was pride. But not her pride alone. It belonged to the humans, to their effort, courage, and trust. The mayor approached her, eyes shining with gratitude. Ilara, you have done more than guide us. You have shown us what we can achieve together. You are extraordinary. Ilara shook her head gently. I only helped. Humans are strong. You work together. That is power. Mia ran to her, smiling despite being soaked. See? You didn't just save the town. You made everyone believe in themselves. That's something no machine or plan could do alone. Ilara nodded, looking at the tired but happy faces of the townspeople. She realized that this was the essence of humanity: courage, cooperation, and the willingness to act together even in the face of danger. These were the lessons she had been seeking, and now she had witnessed them fully. As the night grew quiet, the townspeople gathered in the square for a small celebration. They shared food, stories, and laughter, expressing gratitude and relief. Ilara observed, smiling softly. She had learned so much in just a few days. The importance of empathy, patience, trust, and teamwork. Humans were indeed remarkable. Later, as she walked with Mia toward the guest quarters, Ilara paused to look at the stars. They seemed brighter tonight, reflecting her thoughts. Humans are amazing, she said softly. Mia nudged her playfully. You finally get it, huh? There's more to life than rules and logic. Humans, we feel, we help, we connect. That's what makes us strong. Ilara nodded. I understand now. Connection, trust, courage. Humans are powerful in ways my world does not always see. The next morning, Ilara received a message from her home planet. They asked about her progress, expecting reports of observations, numbers, and data. She paused, thinking about what she had learned. Could she convey the depth of human strength in mere words? She typed carefully. Humans are remarkable, not because of tools or weapons, but because of trust, courage, and cooperation. I have learned much. Their strength is in their hearts and minds. As she sent the message, she realized her journey on Earth had changed her. She had come to observe, but she had also connected, learned, and grown. Humans were more than a subject of study. They were living examples of resilience, hope, and ingenuity. Days passed, and Ilara continued to explore human life. She helped in schools, worked with volunteers, and even joined in festivals and celebrations. Every interaction deepened her understanding. Every smile, every act of kindness, every moment of cooperation taught her that strength was not measured by technology or power alone. It was measured by the bonds between people, by their courage, and by their willingness to act together. One evening, Mia asked, "Are you ever going to go back to your planet?" Ilara looked at the town, the people she had grown to respect and care for, and the river that had tested them all. "I must return," she said softly. "But I will carry humans with me. Their lessons, their courage, will never be forgotten." Mia smiled, understanding. "Then maybe one day you'll come back, and we'll show you even more of what humans can do." Ilara nodded. She had learned that her journey was not just about studying humans, it was about sharing, learning, and connecting. She had seen the best of them: courage, compassion, teamwork, and trust. And she knew that wherever she went, these lessons would guide her. As the stars twinkled overhead, Ilara felt a sense of peace. The town was safe, the humans were strong, and she had discovered something more powerful than any technology: the heart of humanity. Her mission had begun with curiosity, but it had grown into understanding, admiration, and friendship. She had explored humans, yes, but more importantly, she had discovered a part of herself through them. And somewhere in the quiet night, Ilara smiled, knowing that this was only the beginning of a lifelong journey of learning, helping, and connecting across worlds. The river flowed calmly under the moonlight, a silent witness to the strength, courage, and unity of humanity, and the alien princess who had come to understand it.